So you have kind of a cool looking screen, Jennifer. You look like you're kind of a black background. You look very dramatic. I like it.
Uh, I'm trying to get closer to the window, which is open, um, and I can hear the birds. So,
Nice. Dan Furman is joining. Hi, Dan. Welcome. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you.
I wish I had that list. Yes, you can make the call, Cheryl. How long you want to wait? I'll just keep an eye on the waiting room too and let people in. But want to get started, or should we wait a little bit longer?
I'd say let's go ahead and get started.
Okay. Sounds good. Well, thanks so much for joining us. Tonight, we were going to start with Jim Cummings, and he's not on the call yet. So we'll skip to Steve Payer and then go back to Jim if he joins us. So maybe Cheryl, would you be willing to open us in prayer?
So I think that Jay Cummings. So I can do a little bit of introduction. My name is Reverend Michael Young. I'm pastor in Leslie, Michigan, and I'm on the Prophetic Integrity Missionary team of the Michigan Conference, which is sort of like the host of this webinar and this gathering tonight. So I appreciate the folks from Solar Faithful for giving us their time, and Cheryl for joining us from the Michigan Conference as well. So if you'd like, maybe we should start with some centering time. Yeah. So let us do that and take a deep breath and maybe let go of some of the stuff we might be carrying today, or this week, some of the stresses or anxieties or whatever we may be carrying. And maybe just a few seconds of silence and a couple of deep breaths, and then I will open us in prayer.
Great. And Jay has joined us.
He can pray too. So Jay, just to let you know, we're taking just a couple of seconds of silence, and then I'll open us in prayer, and then we'll get started. God of creation, breath of our souls, giver of life, caretaker of our hearts, be with us gathered this evening. Great mystery, teach us how to trust our heart, our minds, our intuition, our inner knowing, the senses of our bodies, the blessings of our spirit. Teach us to trust these things so we may enter our sacred space and love beyond our fear and thus walk in balance with the passing of each glorious sun. Amen and Ashe.
And wonderful. Thank you. So our plan tonight is just to, we've got a small group so we can be informal. We can just talk as we go through this. If you have questions or comments, you can just make them, or we're also going to leave some time for questions at the end. We'll kind of go through our slides fairly quickly so we can get to the Q&A and the open discussion. But we're going to start with just a little background about where the UCC has been with creation care and a little bit about the solar projects that the UCC has been involved with. Then we'll introduce you to Solar Faithful, who we are, and then a little bit about how we operate. And then Rob will share some completed projects, and then we'll go into the Q&A. Sound okay? Okay, we'll start with Jay then. Jay, you had some a little bit of background on the UCC and creation care and so on? Are you there, Jay? No, that's weird. He's in the room, but
He's not muted.
no, he's not muted.
Okay.
Well, let me just share a few slides of some UCC churches that we know. Now, just by way of background, we think that there's about almost 10,000 houses of worship in Michigan, and less than 100 of them have solar, and about I guess about 10 of them now have done it with us. So we've got a fairly good percentage of them, even though we've only been around for a year and a half. But there are some congregations, UCC congregations, that have solar. So Jennifer was able to track down some photographs. So this is one of them, Plymouth United Church of Christ, which is in my town in Kentwood, but right outside of Grand Rapids. So I drive by these panels very frequently. This one, Edgewood. I don't know where that is.
East Lansing.
East Lansing, okay. And then Haslett Community Church. And then I think the last one is the Congregational Church of Birmingham. And I think Steve Payer, were you gonna share some background on
Sure.
the project at Birmingham?
Sure. If when you're ready for it, I'd be happy to.
Okay, we're ready.
Great. Okay. Thank you. Yeah, we actually I joined the church in 2015, and work was already underway to develop a program or to install solar on our church. We were working with Michigan IPL at the time. So this is pre-Solar Faithful, but they had some angel investors there who had started some projects, and I think they worked at United Methodist Church in Ferndale at the time and did a PPA for that power purchase agreement. We took a little bit different avenue at the time. We had looked at that, and we were having difficulty at the time. Again, this was probably 7, 8 years ago now, in finding an investor. So we decided to. We did have a very generous donation to start our work. And we worked with one of the solar contractors that at the time was part of Michigan IPL, or working with them. And we decided to raise funds through a buy a panel campaign, and offering our members to either purchase and or go over a period of time where they would pay off that money. We used some of our invested reserves to actually meet the requirement to do the installation. So when all was said and done, we installed as you saw in the picture in my background here, 15.6 kilowatt system. It was originally going to be on top of our sanctuary. As you can see from the picture, we have skylights in there, but we had recently redone the roof, and that was key because we had a new roof on pretty much most of the full church as part of a capital campaign. And then we decided, no, when we looked at that, and I think it was a better decision to go on top of our fellowship hall, as you can see. So we have either 48 panels there. We run through 3 5-kilowatt inverters that are located in the basement. I will give you some of the data. We've been running since we commissioned the project in August of 2018, and have been running continuously since then. I will say that the only issue we ever had is that one of the inverters had to be replaced early on. So it's kind of we call failure in infancy. We've had absolutely zero problems with any of the hardware since then. It has been tremendous. We don't even, be honest with you, we don't even go up and clean those panels. Although I think they do wash themselves off through rainwater and through snow. They are set at 10-degree angle facing south. So it's virtually zero maintenance. The other thing that we were very fortunate to do is we got in just about at the tail end of DTE's net metering. So we still have about 4 years left of that, and that has been a tremendous asset to us. But there are other ways to be able to handle that right now through the distributive tariff programs that they have right now, but we're still on the net metering right now. We do not have battery storage here. It's strictly running through the 3 inverters through a bidirectional meter that we have. Just to kind of run through the data, and bear with me, I've got to get the right slide up here. I can just kind of iterate what we have right now. So through December of last year, and that's when I collect the data every year to do our annual report. We had are basically offsetting our electricity. Keep in mind, we're a net metering of our total electrical usage. About 42.6% since commissioning is offset through solar. And again, we're pushing that back onto the grid when we're not using it, and we're pulling obviously from DTE dollar for dollar, kilowatt for kilowatt on that for 42.6%. And that really, I think that far exceeded our expectations. We were looking at maybe 25%. So it's just been a tremendous benefit to us. Now, mind you, we have done some things before. We've done a lot of LED conversion. We're very conscientious about lighting and such. But we're not a high-tech church. This church was built in 1965. It still has boilers and 3-phase single-speed air handling unit motors, which, really in the wintertime, that's our major draw. We don't have central air conditioning in the building. We just have some wall units, so we don't, our low point really is in the summertime. We do outdoor worships and such like that. But the 42.6 has been tremendous. So, a lot of people want to talk dollars and cents, and we definitely want to talk the environmental aspect of that. But we estimate that through the end of last year, we're just shy of $11,000 savings alone, just from what we're not buying from the utility company, which has been tremendous. And of course, I could go on and on about what the amount of pounds of CO2 that we're preventing in the environment. But we have been, it's really one of the best upgrades, I think, at least in my opinion. I'm a little biased as I've worked in the industry myself, but I can say from us, it's just been a tremendous upgrade to the church. Obviously in the savings, and our mission, of course, falls in line with the UCC mission. Environmental justice is one of our key points, one of our key missions as a congregation, and obviously as a denomination. So that's kind of the real quick oversee that just to kind of give you a rundown, and happy to answer any questions you have.
Okay, well, thanks so much, Steve. That's a cool project, and it looks like a really interesting church and a beautiful setting.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah. So we can come back to your experience too at the end when we do the Q&A if there's questions about that too. So Solar Faithful has 3 officers, and they're all on the call tonight. So it's myself, Steve Mulder, Jennifer Young, and Rob Rafson is the president of Solar Faithful. So we'll start with Jennifer, and she's going to give us some background about how Solar Faithful came into being. Jennifer?
Yeah, thank you, Steve, and thank you, Steve Payer, as well. Really appreciate you being at the forefront of the clean energy transition in so many ways. So yes, as Steve said, my name is Jennifer Young. I am an energy programs manager with Michigan Interfaith Power and Light. I also have the privilege of serving as an officer of Solar Faithful. So Solar Faithful is actually a collaborative effort of Michigan Interfaith Power and Light, Climate Witness Project, which Steve is a part of, and Charthouse Energy, which Rob is with. And it began in Ann Arbor in 2017 when the city of Ann Arbor got a Department of Energy grant to study financing options to make solar accessible for houses of worship in Washtenaw County. We took that model, and it initially involved essentially congregant lending at a really modest rate of return, because at that time the legislation didn't allow faith-based entities to take advantage of the tax credits, the 30% or more tax credits to go solar. Since then, that has changed in the last couple of years, which has really changed the landscape for solar for faith communities, but we'll talk about that too. And so SunWealth is also represented here. So they are an impact investor who specifically wants to invest in faith-based solar projects. And they make it possible for congregations to install solar at no cost through the Solar Faithful program. We just got our 501c3 status about a year and a half ago. This is our team. We have an 8-person board of directors. We have many outreach team members across the state. And yeah, really exciting to be launching this initiative after many years. This is our board of directors. And then Steve already introduced Rob and myself. Steve Payer was talking about environmental justice being really an important part of his faith community's values. That's really where our starting point was. So we started to get excited that solar was getting embraced by faith communities across Michigan. But then we noticed so far there were, like, at that time, around 24 or maybe 30 houses of worship, and not a single one at a Black church, not a single one in a low-income faith community. And we started to ask ourselves, what are we doing wrong? What's missing from the clean energy transition being inclusive? And the irony is that the impacts of reliance on fossil fuels fall first and worst on the most vulnerable. We have a faith community participating with us in and installing solar next month in 48217, the most polluted zip code in Michigan, where asthma rates are highest among children compared to anywhere else in the state. And so this is what we're talking about when we launch this, is how do we increase solar access and how do we make it equitable? And so, well, maybe backing up one more step is why solar in the first place? What does that have to do with our faith? So people of faith and conscience has been at the forefront of every social justice movement throughout history, from civil rights to women's rights. And we see climate crisis as that issue of the moment. If we're not talking about the climate crisis, we're not addressing something that impacts everyone. And it's becoming increasingly more and more evident in our day-to-day lives. And at the same time as being people of faith who courageously meet the challenges of the moment, we're also people of hope who can meet them coming from a different perspective, a perspective that actually holds the promise of a transformation. So it's clear when we use fossil fuels, we emit more greenhouse gases, we contribute to the problem. Where you know, that's where we are. That's business as usual.
Mm-hmm.
So Solar Faithful's motivation is love and justice. And caring for the most vulnerable is part of how, from my perspective, this is part of our mission. It's not just about doing what's good for God's creation or the planet. It's also about doing what's best for our neighbors. And a lot of the congregations that we've worked with, they're also interested in the bottom line. How does this help our congregation spend less on energy and more on our mission? We get that and respect that. We know that every dollar that you save is going to vital ministries that serve the community. And we'd rather you be able to do that than pay the utility companies. So with that, I'll turn it over to you, Steve.
So there's me again. Thank you, Jennifer. You know, those that I was reading up on UCC, and there's the three, I think it's called the three great loves that I don't know what you call that, program, I guess, in the UCC, and it aligns perfectly with what Jennifer was just showing with those three things: the love of God, the love of creation, and the love of God's creatures. So that's really what motivates us. But we also, as Jennifer said, we get that the money always becomes a factor. And the other factor is just the idea that we can bear witness to our members and our neighbors that we're doing this work and that they could do it too. So why Solar Faithful then? You know, there's a lot of options out there, and you're certainly welcome to take any of them that you like to do. The reason that Solar Faithful was created, as Jennifer said, was about justice and equity, and the fact that, you know, pretty much all of those congregations that had gone solar in the state had done it in the same way, which was doing a capital campaign, raising the money, and, you know, doing it. So if you have those kinds of resources, both the money and the time and the expertise to do all that, great. But lots of congregations don't. Lots of congregations are just barely getting by or just dealing with day-to-day survival. And they're, you know, solar is probably not uppermost in their mind, and we want to be able to let those congregations participate too. So we're focused on justice and equity. We're building trust. We realize we can't just go in and say, hey, trust us. You know, we have to earn that trust. And so we're trying to do that, and we're trying to do that by showing up, basically. So we're everywhere anybody will invite us to come. And we try to be as transparent and as honest as we can with everything we're doing. So we want to build the trust of the whole faith community, all the different faiths. So we do bring a lot of financial and technical expertise, and it's not from me. So, you know, my background is actually in the insurance business and insurance industry, really. And I've been working for the Climate Witness Project for the past 7 years or so, as Jennifer said. But Charthouse Energy brings a tremendous amount of financial and technical expertise and experience. And they're the ones who come up with the proposals and have come up with all the different financial financing options that we've been able to offer. So, so we're kind of trying to give you a general idea of who Solar Faithful is and how we work. But really what's important is for a congregation to fill out our interest form, which is available on our website, and then give us a year's worth of electric bills. Then we can do a proposal. So it's not like we're going to be nagging you after that and, you know, hounding you and trying to do a hard sell or anything. But the issue is that every congregation is very different, every nonprofit too. And so their situations are different. And so it's really okay to talk about how these things work in theory, but it's really much better to get down to a real practical discussion about an individual application. So we are, one of the things we offer is the fact that it is easy to implement. So I always kind of laugh at this picture because I was trying to find a picture of somebody snapping their fingers. I thought that's what this was. Does anybody know what this picture actually is? This little girl? It's apparently a Korean symbol of love. So it's like you make a little heart with your thumb in your first finger. So since somebody pointed that out to me in one of these presentations, I've been noticing lots of pictures of young people in particular making that symbol in photos and so on. So I thought, yeah, it's cool. It is about love, and it's also about easy to implement. So part of what we have to offer helps to address people's roof anxiety. So we're finding that lots and lots of congregations have a lot of roof anxiety. Everybody has a roof. Nobody likes their roof. Everybody hates spending money on their roof. Roofs don't last forever, and so a lot of congregations are trying to wrestle with: do we really have to spend all that money on our roof now? And if we got solar, what would happen if the roof had a problem, you know, 5 years down the road or 10 years down the road? So built into the contract for the power purchase agreement is the fact that they'll take the panels off the roof one time during the 25 years and put them back up at no cost. So that's something that I'm not aware of other people offering. So that's a pretty good feature for Solar Faithful. Pretty good offering. And then career training. So we're right in the middle of a whole bunch of interesting projects right now and a whole bunch of interesting opportunities. And a lot of it is going to include helping the communities that are installing these solar panels to do some training for their community. So folks can help us with actually installing the panels and learning about the construction trades and seeing if that makes sense for them. And then if you do use Solar Faithful, you'll be included in what we're calling the Solar Faithful Network, which is really just a group of folks, like-minded folks who are trying to figure out what's the best thing to do and having periodic meetings to talk about, what their experience has been or some important issues. So there's just unbelievable how much is going on right now with the IRA money. So I'm sure you're all familiar with the IRA and the money that became available through that. And now that money is starting to come to the states. And it's very interesting how that's all getting processed and all sorts of new opportunities are popping up with that. Okay, so Solar Faithful really has two main financing options. The first one is a direct purchase. So with a direct purchase, the congregation can use existing funds or raise the capital. That's the model that I was saying most of the congregations have used in the past. Another possibility is to use borrowed funds. So probably one of the best rates out there is for Michigan Saves at 7.5%. And then the third one of it for the direct purchase is the congregate supported purchase. So this is something that we've just started doing, and it's not a new model, though. It's congregations have done this for other things, and Solar Faithful, the original Solar Faithful, did some of this on the east side of the state earlier on too. But the concept there is instead of using Sun Wealth as the investor, we could have 5 or 10 members of the congregation put up the money to do the installation and actually loan the church the money to do the installation, and then get paid back that loan at whatever rate the investors and the congregation agree on. So that could be, if you have a group of investors that want to do that, it may be that they'd be willing to take a lesser return than they might get in the stock market or say a CD. Maybe they would be willing to do it for 4% or 3% or whatever. So that's a very interesting concept that's a lot of congregations are interested in now. So the idea with the direct purchase is the congregation owns the array and they realize all the savings. But on the other side, they're also responsible for operations and maintenance and insurance, and they have to have some resources to be able to handle that, to be able to do those things. So, but it does save the most money.
Steve?
Yeah.
I since you're presenting, you might not be able to see the chat, but Chris just pointed out that the United Church funds have a 4% loan rate for churches who want to go solar.
No, that's great. That's fantastic. So the other approach is the power purchase agreement that was alluded to earlier. I think Steve mentioned it. So with that would be where Sun Wealth would become involved. Sun Wealth is an impact investment organization in Cambridge, Massachusetts. So as Jennifer said, they want to fund these kinds of projects. So in that case, they actually purchase the panels and own the panels. So this is a church in Lansing, an AME church that used the PPA model. And so the congregation simply purchases the power that comes from those panels. So they don't have any responsibility for, installing them, researching the whole thing, maintenance, insurance, all that's handled by Sun Wealth and Solar Faithful. And the congregation is guaranteed to start, as they start, they will pay at least 10% less than they're currently paying the utility for the power produced. So that's the easiest way to do it. But as I said, the way to save more money is probably through a direct purchase. But I wanted to share some sort of pictures that show how the PPA works, just because it might be something that you're not familiar with. So here's the congregation. These slides aren't advancing quite right. Okay, there's the utility. So the utility produces the power, goes to the meter into the church. This is business as usual. This is how most most churches are getting their power today. So the problem with that, this is a pie chart that shows where or how electricity was generated in the state of Michigan. Now this is a few years old, so this is 2021. I've been trying to find an updated version of this. I know that the amount of coal has gone down and the amount of natural gas has gone up. So, but as you can see, a couple of years ago, it was about a third, a third, a third. So a third of the energy produced by the utility comes from coal, about a third from natural gas, and about a third nuclear. Very tiny sliver from solar. So when you're buying your power from the utility is burning a lot of fossil fuel to make that power. So it's a very clean arrangement, and not clean in the sense of clean air, but clean in the sense of easy. It's really a power purchase with the utility. So the utility provides the power, and you pay the utility. So the problem is lots of greenhouse gases and particulates, which cause a lot of problems for a lot of people, and it's expensive. So here's how a power purchase agreement works. So here we're harnessing the power of the sun. So SunWealth hires a solar installer to put the panels on the church or near the church, whatever the case is. Most of the power from the power from the panels goes directly into the church, the power of the church. Any excess power would go back to the utility, back to the grid. So some power is still purchased from the utility because the utility or the solar array is designed not to provide 100% of the power, but 80 or 90% of the power. So some power is still purchased from the utility. So the only complicating factor here is that now you have two utility bills. So your biggest utility bill or electric bill goes to SunWealth, and then a smaller amount goes to the utility. So that big cloud of greenhouse gas and particulates and the big dollar sign becomes smaller. So that's why you would do a power purchase agreement. It's easy to do, reduces the amount of greenhouse gases that your installation is responsible for, I guess you could say, and it saves you money. So I just wanted to show you, this is actually the proposal that was made for my church. So I go to St. Mark's Episcopal Church in Grand Rapids, and I'm meeting with the vestry next week to talk about this proposal. But this is what a proposal would look like when you fill out the interest form and you send the electric bill. So up on top is the power purchase agreement. And so for my church, we would save about $100,000 over the 25 years of the contract. So the direct purchase using borrowed funds is kind of like, so this is kind of good, this is kind of better. So you're saving more money with a direct purchase, with the bank loan, or with the congregate supported lending. And then if you're able to come up with the money yourself, you save the most with the simple direct purchase. So I don't want to go into all the details on this, but just to show you that this is kind of how your proposal will look, and also how those three different ways of approaching the purchase play out. Okay, I'm going to turn it over to Rob now, and we've got some pictures of some of the projects that we've completed, and then we'll go into the Q&A. Rob, you there?
Good evening, everybody. So yeah, we did this project at Faith Lutheran in Okemos, and this was done as a power purchase agreement, and yeah, they had just replaced the roof, and they had been trying to figure out how to get solar for many years, and they just didn't have the funds. They didn't. They had other things that they needed to raise money for, and weren't interested in raising funds for this. And when the opportunity to do a PPA was well received, and they're excited to have around 70% of their energy usage offset by the solar. And this is Ferry Memorial in Montague. And what was interesting with this one was that the main part of the church, they have a little outbuilding, and this is their offices. And so we electrically connected the three buildings together so that the array would power all three buildings. And believe it or not, that small array offsets probably 65, almost 70% of their usage. And they had some funds available in their capital budget, so they just outright purchased it. We also did some electrical upgrades too as we did that project. And Pastor Jerry is just excited about every time there's an extra electron going out into the grid, and they're powering the neighborhood. And so this was also done in a power purchase agreement. And there's a nice piece that what was it, Fox News?
Yeah.
Did on this one. And we talked a little bit earlier about Trinity AME. Similarly, also very excited about. I think they were the second Black church in Michigan to get solar. We had installed a solar project in Ypsilanti before this one, and so that they're very excited about having it, and it's wonderful to see the support that the community also had with it. And the Climate Witness Project is supported by World Renew, and they in turn do a lot of good around the world, and we're very excited about putting solar on their offices, and they decided to do a direct purchase also. And we're this Green Sky Hill is up in Charlevoix. This is an Indian predominantly an Indian church, and has a Native American Indian pastor now, which is very cool. And we put the solar on their community. They have two buildings, so they have a community center, and that also was done through a direct purchase. And then we're doing, interestingly, we're doing a group of projects for the Community of Christ churches. And what they did as an organization was they decided to review the contracts for the direct purchase and for the PPA, so that each of the individual churches could know that each of those contracts were acceptable. So what they've recommended to each of their individual churches, that if they needed a roof, then the overall organization will lend them the money for the roof and solar. And if they have a good roof, then they recommend that they go with a PPA, so that they don't have though it's less savings, it's still less money up front. And so that's what they've done as an organization. They have about 80 buildings or a couple of summer camps, and then the rest of the churches around the state. And so the hope is that we're going to plod through and get all of them done. So I thought it was interesting that they had chosen to really do it from an organizational perspective and really, campaign to have each of the individual churches to make their own decision, but with one of these two options.
So let's just open it up now. Anybody can ask questions. I think Rob will be answering most of them. And just also share if you have information or anything you want to share with the rest of the group.
Yeah, so on the winter thing, basically years ago I looked at to determine what the losses were for solar in the winter and how much it would cost in time and effort to brush off all the snow in between after each snowstorm, and figured out that you had to have 4 to 5 nice sunny days following your cleaning of the panels, and it didn't pay, bottom line. So when we do our modeling, we figure out how much snow is in the area, and then make an estimate for the losses and just include it as part of our estimate of the project. And as you said, we have like 36 inches of rain a year in Michigan, and that's more than enough to wash most of the dirt off.
Yep.
But what's cool is most of the systems that we do, you can measure the performance of each individual panel. And so if one of the panels falls out of performance, you can say, oh, there must be something on that panel, or the panel is not working full on. So we'll come out, we'll look at it, and then either clean the dirt off or the leaves or whatever, and test the panel. And if the panel is underperforming, then we'll put in a warranty claim for a new panel, come out and replace the panel as part of the maintenance of the system.
And I do have a question with Rob or Steve. With the Sunwealth PPA, what was the length or the terms? How many years would this church or faith institution sign up for?
Right, they're 25-year agreements.
Okay.
And then at the end, you have 3 options. You can extend the agreement.
Yep.
You can say there's a $0 ownership after that period. And then, or you can say, okay, for some reason we're done, we don't want the panels there, we'll take them off at no cost.
Yeah, I really like the idea that your program has they'll pay for one removal and install of panels, because generally, I mean, in an ideal world, you would like the roof to be 5 years or less old, but that's not reality. And in a 10-year-old roof, especially a pitch roof, can be in very, very good condition. And flat roofs, maybe you're lucky to get 20 years out of it. The bane of our existence sometimes is that flat roof on our church. Our former pastor had often said that if she was reluctant at one time to join the church, to be employed by the church because we had flat roofs, and she knows what that means now. Actually, it's more joking in there, but so I think that's a really good feature on your program there, that because that can get pretty costly if you have to remove panels to replace roof, and generally it's up to the building owner to do that. So
and what's interesting is that the area under the panels are shaded by the panels and typically last 5 to 7 years longer than they would have without the solar panels on them. They also, because there's the panels protect them against hail and winds, and there's a lot less wear and tear on in the roof below a solar panel, whether it's pitched or flat.
And I know that, solar companies, they do real good job. They have to get structural drawings and get permits pulled and such. So it's often helpful to understand what the composition of the roof is. It's not always practical to do that depending upon the age of that, but and that alone, to know what type of mounting system and how to mount that to minimize any impact to the roof too. That's typically done and helpful for the life of the roof.
Yeah. The question in the chat, kind of an interesting one. There's I would recommend EcoWorks as an organization to help you to decide the sizing of the heat pump and the equipment that you would need to electrify, to go from your natural gas fired boiler to a heat pump. And then once they determine how much additional electricity you're going to use, then you could come back to us and we would do the analysis of what the additional solar would be required, or solar that would be required for the building and the new electrification. But it's there's an exciting time. There is incentives for electrification. There is incentives for the solar. And if the church does decide to go and buy the system, whether through their own funds, through bank funds, or through congregate lending, there is a clear and relatively easy path to recover the incentives as a rebate check through the IRS. And we've built a little graphic that shows you how to do it and each of the steps and which form to fill out and such. So
yeah, I wish we had that back in 2018. That would have been very nice, that 30% coming back. And then, we can use that money if it's already paid. Now we can put it into your mission work or whatever,
Right.
It's really, really a wonderful, wonderful program for nonprofits to take advantage of.
Really, that one's kind of easy. The steps are, whether you fill out we'd like you to fill out the interest form, but if you sent us an electric bill, if you're in consumers, or a year's worth of electric bill if you're in DTE territory, because they don't have the little chart that shows you which month you're using how much energy. And then we can produce a preliminary proposal that we would then be able to talk about the exact costs and economics. And then if the church board approves the concept, then we would come out and we'd measure the building, check the structure, determine where the interconnection and how it will be connected to the building. And then we'll take those numbers, redo the design also, wherever you want the panels, you'll explain that to us. And then we'll go forward to bring you a final proposal and the paperwork for either purchase or a PPA, and then we can move forward from there. Then during construction, the steps are to inspect the roof to make sure what the condition is before we start our work. And then we do the work, install, and then we check to make sure that we haven't damaged any part of the roof. And then we start it up, commission the system, show the people that maintain and operate the building what the system is and how it works. And then hopefully you guys feel strongly enough that you have a commissioning ceremony and enjoy the savings. And the link to our interest form is in the chat.
Any other questions or comments?
I just had one thing. I think it was earlier in the presentation, a discussion about the sources for electricity. I hope I found the right site on Energy Information Administration. At least from February 2024, natural gas is by far the predominant source. Coal fire is, lower than nuclear. I didn't know that. Hydro is just a sliver, but a growing number of non-hydroelectric renewables. So I can put the link in here for you if you'd like to take a look at that. It's not in the pie chart, but it looks like it's. Let me go ahead.
Yeah, that's what I was looking for, was the pie chart. I knew that coal had gone way down and natural gas way up, but natural gas is pretty problematic also. It's even calling it natural gas, it's really methane. It's another fossil fuel, and it's not a cure-all by any means. So
that's the link there. Oh, absolutely. It's greenhouse gas, and so.
Yeah, what's cool is that right now renewable energy generation, which is wind and solar predominantly, represents almost 16% of the state's generating capacity.
Yeah.
And that's really such an incredible increase from the 7% just 5 years ago. And most of that was done by the utilities to meet the renewable energy portfolio standard that was put in place in 2008.
Yeah.
And the coal one's going to decrease rather dramatically in the next few years, because there's a couple of big closures that will be happening over the next 3 years, and I'm very excited to see them go away.
Yes, same here.
I just want to say thank you for presenting this to us, and for the information and the ways to contact you with interest. I believe you are videotaping, or recording, so maybe we can present that to others as well. But thank you so much.
All right.
Yeah, thank you so much for having us, Cheryl. And I will send out the link to the recording as soon as I get it, which will probably be tomorrow.
Great. So. All right.
Okay.
Well, blessings, everybody. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you,
God bless everyone. Thank you again.
Have a good night.
Bye-bye.